La inteligencia artificial ya no es un tema de expertos, sino tarea de cualquier profesional en finanzas o negocios. Su crecimiento demanda más liderazgo y visión. ¿Y quién mejor para hablar de ello sino el ajedrecista para el cual IBM diseñó la computadora Deep Blue como su contrincante? Es un honor presentar la conferencia magistral Human Leadership in the Era of AI Disruption. Garry Kasparov se convirtió en el campeón de ajedrez sub-18 de la URSS a la edad de 12 años y en campeón mundial sub-20 a los 17. Se convirtió en el campeón mundial de ajedrez más joven en la historia en 1985 a la edad de 22 años y defendió su título en 5 ocasiones. Es columnista, activista político y autor del libro Cómo la vida imita al ajedrez. We welcome Garry to the Risk Management and Trading Conference 2021.
Good afternoon. Greetings from Paris. I'm here in the hotel on Champs-Élysées, and so I wish you cannot hear the noise on the streets because it's in the midst of European soccer football championship, and of course, you know, the fans are just creating terrible noise. But thanks to modern technology, so I can talk to you without this noise preventing us from having a decent conversation. So I picked up the title for my presentation about human leadership in the era of AI disruption, because if we talk about risk today, we have to start talking about decision making, because every decision has its components, and risk is one of their components. And I'll try to analyze the modern decisions made in the era of human-machine collaboration. So from both sides, we have human element and, of course, a machine role, and how we can get the best out of these cooperation. So just to talk about decisions, so I think I have to go back a little bit, you know, just to tell you about my journey in the world of chess, and so how I started thinking about my decisions and about my goals, long-term goals. So next slide, please. So the picture you see is one of my favorite. It's November 10, 1985. You can guess. That was quite a moment in my life. I became the youngest world champion in history, so at age 22. And I, you know, nearly cry when I look at this picture because, you know, look at this hair. So it's no longer there. Probably tells you about a connection between, you know, acquired wisdom and hair loss. What I remember about that day, and it's quite ironic that it's not all these huggings and kissings and all these trivial things. Yeah, Gary, great, but something else, something exactly the opposite. I was approached in the middle of this celebration by Rona Petrosian, a wife of late Tigran Petrosian, former world chess champion, one of my mentors. And instead of all these traditional, you know, the trivial things, she said, "Young man, I was sorry for you." So what do you mean sorry? I'm 22. I'm the youngest world champion in history, the best on earth. Sky is the limit. Yes, she said, "I'm sorry for you because the happiest day of your life has just passed." Wow. I cannot tell you that I was wise enough to understand the importance of these words, but later I thought that maybe it was not a curse, but actually, you know, a blessing, because, you know, it could be true, but also it gave me a good reason to prove her wrong. And so I started thinking about, you know, about the future. And so this is how I'm making decisions. And so what else I can do in my life, because, you know, you cannot be world champion forever. And it's very important to actually to analyze all you did and how you can apply this knowledge elsewhere. So so let's look at the next slide. When I stopped playing chess all the way back in 2005, I thought about writing a book, and it was, you know, natural. I had to write a book about decision making, and the English title was How Life Imitates Chess. It's in 24 or so languages, and the idea of the book was to present the mechanism of decision making. So how I made decisions, how I analyze them, and how I can apply this knowledge that I accumulated through my chess career into other walks of life. And I actually betrayed the expectations of some publishers, especially American publisher, who wanted, to see this as a book of tips. And I said, no, that's not a diet book. This is not about tips. This is about process. And it's very important that, we analyze this process, looking inside, understanding who we are before we know how to improve ourselves. It's not trying to change our nature. If we are conservative by nature, we should try to create situations where our natural instincts will play well at the time of the crisis. If we're more dynamic, like myself, so then we should look for the opposite scenarios. So I've been doing many lectures. Actually, I think one of them I did 8 years ago for this conference when it was much smaller, and Enrique kindly reminded me about this presentation. So that's why I don't want to spend too much time on that, because now we should probably move to the computers. But again, the important thing about human decision is that it starts from inside. It's, don't try to go against your natural instincts. Make sure that the decision-making process very much fit your character, and always be very honest with yourself, brutally honest. Just look at all mistakes you made. Even if you won the game, there's always something to learn. So that's why I could stay on. I could stay on top for so long, because I never stopped working on perfecting, on excelling my chess. I knew that as long as you are trying to fight your own excellence, you will never be short of opponents. And that's one of the lessons of my late mother. It's not just about winning. It's not just about winning in style. It's about making a difference. So, speaking about the difference, so I entered the world of computers, chess computers, even before I became the world champion. So let's go to the next slide, please. So that's June 1985. It's 6 months, almost 6 months before the picture that you saw a couple of minutes ago. I was yet to become world champion. I was a challenger, and I played in a simultaneous exhibition. I'm sure many of you, saw it, or maybe some of you even took part in this kind of competitions where you have a grandmaster or strong player facing a number of opponents, sometimes several dozens opponents, and he or she goes around this either circle or square, making moves. And the uniqueness of this event was that I faced 32 opponents, but the moves have been suggested by computers. So I faced 32 chess computers, very primitive computers. Again, maybe some of you still had these pieces of antique all the way back, in the popular back in the 80s and maybe early 90s. And the humans, of course, executed moves, but the moves came from machines. So I played these 32 games, and I won all the games. So, and it was not a surprise. To the contrary, I think the surprise would be me not winning all the games, even just making one draw. And people expected that, okay, fine, this is big deal. Machines were no more than toys. Yes, machines were pretty nasty for average players. They could beat probably 95 or maybe 99% of the chess players, but they were totally hopeless against top players. And again, looking at this picture, so I think about the golden era of human-machine relations, because machines were weak, and as you can see, my hair was very strong. So that's 1985. So I had this match, and I was, of course, very happy that I could do it. But now let's look at the next picture, 12 years later. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's 1997. And you can guess, I'm playing the Blue IBM Supercomputer. Just to set the record straight, it was the second match that I played against Deep Blue. The first one was in 1996 in Philadelphia, a year earlier, and I won the match. It's important to remember the whole historical context. So the second match didn't go that well to me, so I lost the match of 6 games, though it was kind of a reverse scenario. In Philadelphia, I won the overall match, but I lost game 1. In New York, I won the game 1, but eventually lost the match. And if we're looking for a watershed moment, like a milestone in these relations of humans and machines, so we should probably look, for game 1 in Philadelphia as this turning point, because the fact is that computer could beat sitting world champion in what we call classical chess was like a writing on a wall. Yes, I managed to win the match. I fought back, I won 3 games, but I had to sense that there was something was in the air already. I have to confess I didn't. And it's not that, we were all surprised by computers, so that we never, had the chance to test their strengths and to feel their wrath. We already suffered some painful defeats from chess playing engines in 93, 94, 95, but it was all about blitz or rapid chess. And the conventional wisdom, totally wrong conventional wisdom, was, it's, because we didn't have enough time. If we had more time, we'll avoid stupid mistakes, and machines cannot play at our level. So let's have enough time, minimize number of mistakes, and we'll win. Now, and here is just, it's an amazing, I don't know, complacency. It's inability to evaluate the chances, and you may call it evaluate the position, because no matter what time control is, machine will always make fewer mistakes. And here we come to a very important point to understand. So why machines are dominant in every game. Today, it's chess, it's Japanese chess called shogi, it's Go, it's all the video games like Dota, StarCraft, even Texas Hold'em poker, for a simple reasons. Machines making fewer mistakes. You may call machines have steady hand. Now, interesting enough that, when you go back to the beginning of computer era, the founding fathers of computer science, like Alan Turing, Claude Shannon, Norbert Wiener, they all believed that for machine to pass the ultimate test, and they all thought that chess match against the top players would be this ultimate test. Machines had to be intelligent. They had to think like humans for a simple reason, because they didn't have access to the computing power that could tell them otherwise. And that's why, they thought that in mathematically infinite games like chess, and you may call chess mathematically infinite, the number of legal moves, according to Claude Shannon, is 10 to the power of 46. So 46 zeros. That's quite a number. While these games cannot be calculated to the end, so cannot be solved, it had to be dealt by intelligent machine. Deep Blue was as intelligent as your alarm clock. Very expensive one, $10 million a piece, but it was not intelligent at all. The problem, it didn't have to be intelligent. It could make roughly 150 million to 200 million operations per second, and that was more than enough to reach a quality where it could already resist against the strongest players. And if we made mistakes, and none of us can have an insurance against mistakes because we're human, then machine immediately grabs it. So to understand the progress of computers, I can tell you that today, if you have a chess app on your mobile device, it's stronger than Deep Blue, believe it or not. And I'm not even talking about chess programs, chess engines you can download on your laptop. They are much stronger than world champion Magnus Carlsen. The difference between chess playing engines on a fast hardware today and world champion is about the same as between Usain Bolt and Ferrari. So there's no competition. And again, there's no competition for a simple reason. It's because machines making fewer mistakes. This is very important for us to consider when we talk about human-machine collaboration in other areas. For instance, when you look at the driverless cars, and people say, oh, the driverless cars, they don't offer you full safety. Of course they don't. Perfection doesn't exist in the universe, nowhere. You cannot reach 100%. It's about making making better decisions more often, so minimizing number of mistakes. But the problem is when one disaster is caused by the driverless car, as a front page of a newspaper. The fact is that 40,000 people only in America, United States of America, being killed in road accidents because of human mistakes. It's just statistics. So again, we have to recognize that the best way to work with machines is simply to accept the fact that by working with them, we can improve our bottom line. We're not looking for explainability. We're not looking for, for us, controlling the whole process. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for better bottom line. And that's, again, that brings us to the issue of the conference about risk. So after losing this match, and I was, of course, angry because it was the first match I lost, period. Not against machine, just a lost match. I never lost a match before. So I scratched my head, I was licking my wounds. I was ruminating, trying to understand what's next for me and for my game, my beloved game of chess. And then I realized, so it's the beginning of the end. So if you cannot beat them, join them. So instead of fighting machines, how about trying to work with the machines? So, and the next year I came up with a concept that I called advanced chess. So next slide, please. So the idea was, to bring together human and machine. So I thought if we have human intuition, human creativity, human fantasy, and machines brute force and pattern recognition, so maybe we can have a perfect chess. It's again, it's not perfect, but what we found out in many years of this experiment is that it's not the decisive factor of this combination is not human strength and experience. It's not, machine speed and analysis, but it's superior process. So you could have a weaker player with a slower machine beating a stronger player with a faster machine if the former, could come up with the better interface. It's about, getting together and creating the combination that is superior, because at the end of the day, it's about getting as close as possible to 100%. So making sure that human qualities can compensate for machines' deficiencies. Because if we look at this at the decision-making structure as 100%, so machines will contribute to 90% plus, maybe 95% even. But it's very important for us to understand what this machine is liking for this specific task and how we can compensate and just add important elements to make sure that it comes as close as possible to this desired but never reachable 100%. And that's, it's in some places they even call, the Kasparov law, because we have so many chess games to analyze and to prove this case. So now, why, you can ask why, we have human role, being indispensable. So what's the big deal? At the end of the day, again, this is if we belong to last few decimal places, so maybe machines can do everything. And you have the army of doomsayers saying, oh, the end is near, just around the corner. So machines will take over. So humans will be not needed. So machines will learn, from themselves, and will just, move on, just, without, and it'll be unstoppable. It's singularity. It's all sorts of nonsense that has zero evidence if you just look at the facts. Because with all the great things machines can do, they still, lack few very important components that remain exclusively a human domain. And one of them, okay, it's just sometimes, you have to look outside of science or business just for a piece of wisdom that comes from the opposite side, from art, for instance. So yes, the next slide, please. It's a good move. Yeah, so that's I use the Spanish original. Los competidores son inútiles, solo pueden darte respuestas. So machines useless. They can only give you answers. Yeah, you can laugh on him. Picasso had no ideas about computers at distance. But this is not about computers, and he didn't even have to be an expert. he was a great artist, and he knew that being a great artist, you always have to reinvent yourself. And reinventing yourself, you always have to ask right questions. Questions are a beginning. Answers always come next. And can machine ask questions? Yes, they can. They just don't know what questions are relevant. And it's very important that it's for us, for humans, actually, to decide the direction where this massive brute force should be channeled. So you just, when you look at humans and machines, you can just imagine that you are just, in front of the very powerful long-range gun, and it can shoot, for 2 kilometers. And all you can do is just, it's to slightly change 1 millimeter or so the direction of the bullet in the barrel. But that's millimeter in the barrel means 10 meters at the target. So, asking the right question. So that's where we belong. And then I'll just, mention a few other things that are exclusively human. But now hopefully it gives you a little bit more confidence that we're not going to be redundant. So let's go to the next slide. So that's, I put on this slide the reference to the article I recently wrote with Professor De Kremer in Harvard Business Review. It's about AI, and it's about one of the important myths, that we try to address. That's just like AI. It's just it's artificial intelligence, and it's just it's something that will replace humans. And in this article, we presented AI of 3 forms. AI on the machine side, artificial intelligence, okay, you can have it. Authentic intelligence for humans, but the key is augmented intelligence. This is the combination of human-machine collaboration. And also, I brought here a study from Milan. It's from the experts who analyze the performance of this human-machine collaboration in radiology. And they use the word Kasparov law because what they found out is that it's not about the top expert. It's not about the fastest machine. It's about the right interface. It's about an ability of a human expert to understand exactly what this machine needs to address this very issue. And they came up with this conclusion. And again, it's made me very proud. But it's also I think it's important to recognize that it's in these relations, we still have an indispensable role. And today, with all the powers that's brought into the game, machines are still in great need of, call it guidance if you want. Actually, it's not guidance; it's probably the wrong word, but it's for us to actually to work to find the right way to work with this algorithm. So and let's have just a look at the next slide. It's just a little bit about the history of human-machine relations and development of the machines, because it all starts with brute force and the machines that follow human instructions. And by the way, it's still very much a brute force, even if you look at the most advanced computers. So the systems, they call them whatever they want, the machine learning, deep learning. It's still about brute force. 99%. It's a speed and patterns. So that's just machines are just phenomenal in doing these 2 things. But it's not about understanding. So we still have again human role in doing this fine tuning. So it always starts with machines follow human instructions. Then we move to a next stage when we have smarter machines, and they partner with experts. So that's some sort of advanced chess. So and they have to find superior processes to make an improvement. So and then it's a future. It's happening now, but it's still it's not yet common practice when we are dealing with machines that could actually learn from the framework. The machines that do not need human expertise, but just a human framework. Again, very important, human framework. It's closed system. So it's very important to remember that if we talk about chess, if we talk about any other game, so as broad as the Texas Hold'em poker, we're still talking about closed systems. And in closed systems, machine will always be dominant simply because they make fewer mistakes and they can do better, in calculation and pattern recognition. But there's no indication yet that machines are capable of transmitting or transferring data from one closed system to another closed system. Even if you have the machine that is brilliant player in one of the maps on StarCraft, you still have to start from the scratch, doing the same exercise by training machine on another map, even with the same rules. And of course, it's just using the knowledge from one type of positions in chess to another, just in similar game that is just could be slightly different. It's only for humans. And so that's, that brings us to the key elements of this cooperation. I call it augmented intelligence. So it's by the way, it sounds much better than artificial intelligence because it doesn't have the same scary flavor that comes from those Hollywood brainwashing production. So artificial, it's dangerous. It's, you immediately think about killer robots, about artificial intelligence that is just going after you, and this is machines that are conspiring how to kill all of us. By the way, when I watched the Terminator, and all these sci-fi movies, I never understood why machines wanted to eliminate humans. So it's still beyond my understanding. So, and I picked up the telescope here. This is the old device. And what this device did for our eyes, for our vision, is this. It's the same as machines can do for our minds. It's augmenting. It helped us to see much further. But what's important is actually to point the telescope. If you point telescope on the ground, you will not see anything but mud. You have to put it to the stars. That's very important. And then, then you will have the benefits of the technology that it's augmented technology. Yeah. So same as with computers. It's all about our ambitions and us understanding how this relation work. And again, please remember, AI is not a magic wand, but it's not a Terminator. AI is not a harbinger of utopia or dystopia. It's a tool invented by humans, and we have to find the most effective way of adjusting to this new technology and introducing this technology into our businesses. It's just simply recognizing that certain things are happening, and we should not cry over spilled milk, but we should move forward. So next slide, please. Now, so I want to just bring a couple of slides, just to sort of go on the more optimistic side, because it's one of the big complaints is, oh, AI is going to destroy all the jobs, so that's the end of the world. Yeah, technology always destroys all jobs. 200 years ago, almost all the people were involved or were engaged in agriculture. These jobs have gone. 100 years ago, manufacturing. What's happened with these jobs? They've gone. Today, machines are also after our jobs, but white-collar jobs, of people with college degrees and Twitter accounts, and that's why we talk about it all the time. But it's a new challenge, and the good news is that every new generation of computers, becomes more and more user-friendly. You see the keyboards of the 80s. You see already more sophisticated boards of the 90s, and then you see now the kids now, iPad generation, they can swipe their finger. Good news is that even for people like me, I'm 58, so and my knowledge of programming is very limited, but I understand that I can make my contribution by sharing my experience, because I know what an important factor of human-machine collaboration, and I know, that's my role is not going to be redundant, and I don't need to be a savvy computer expert, pushing all the buttons. I just know where I belong. So, and just let's move to the next slide. And when we talk about jobs, so, and I don't want to sound callous, just it's because again, I understand people are always concerned that jobs disappear. Again, yes, technology always challenges industries that are redundant, that are just, that are backward, that are not, future oriented. But look at these jobs, like radiology or just, in medicine. So let's just, you look at the 3D engineers, you look at the social media managers, you can look at the drone operators. So these jobs didn't exist 15 years ago. Some of them even 10 years ago. And I can tell you, I can bet my bottom dollar, the jobs that will be coveted by our kids, by our children, do not exist today. But I can tell you these jobs will somehow materialize. What is very important for us is, again, to adjust ourselves to the demand of the time. Because the problem is not that everything is happening too fast. I think to the contrary, it's that we're trying to slow it down, and that's wrong, because inevitable should happen. And by trying to protract the agony, we're simply preventing us of creating new wealth, new financial cushion to help those who left behind. So it's very important that we recognize what we want in these relations, and in these relations with computers, we are not looking for explainability. Which is the whole idea that, oh, I cannot bring machine into my business because I'm not sure, how machine is making these decisions. Okay, are you looking for explainability, for comfort, when you talk to your shareholders, or about bottom line? Something tells me that, if you have a good bottom line, they can, forget you not understanding exactly how machine help you to get there. Can machine, be perfect? Absolutely not. There's a risk. And now, yes, we'll eventually come to this key topic of this conversation about decision making. But before we go there, just let's summarize what we discussed in the last 30 minutes. So please, next slide. So just let's quickly go over it again. Machines don't have to be perfect, only better. Again, we all are looking to improve our bottom line. That's the core of any business. AI will do things differently, not like humans. Absolutely. It doesn't go through the same mental process. It doesn't have to. At the end of the day, we're looking for a result, not for just guaranteeing it will copy paste the way we do it. AI will do more rote work, freeing us to be more creative and strategic, more human, because there's so much work that is being done now. It can be, substituted by the machines. We all know that over years, no, over decades, one of the compliments was, oh, he or she worked like a machine. It's no longer a compliment. It's wrong. If you do the work that can be done by the machine, probably you're in the wrong business. So you should do something else. You should find, the role where the human factors, the human creativity will be a dominant factor. So intelligent tech is easier to use. So we need less training and retraining. Experience and your general knowledge might be a very important factor for your new job, even if you are not as savvy as the young kids, pushing all the buttons, swiping your finger, and just and coding. And on top of that, AI plus human plus process equals augmented intelligence, and it helps us be smarter. It's not going to make us redundant. It's making us smarter. So now let's move to to the more general picture. So it's the you all know that this is the Google Engram viewer, and what you can do, just you look at the no, please, next slide, please. Okay, good. You pick up a word and you put it in the machine, and it shows you the frequency as the word has been used. So I did a little experiment. I just had 3 words that are important for any business and put them in the system, and it's interesting to see their behavior. You look at the word capital. It's there's nothing unusual. So there were some ups and downs, but generally it was kept at the same level. Probably the importance so it was less significant in the beginning of the 21st century. Same with the word investment. So you could see this a steady increase in that in investment, because again, it's the 20th century was the century of great development and innovation. So investment was a popular word. But while these 2 words behaved as we expect, so can you guess what's the blue line? Why did blue line jumped? Yes, it's highly unusual. You can check other words. You can put the word TV, you put the word computer, phone. They all will behave according to your expectations. But this blue line, all of a sudden, just changes, your, the whole all projections. Probably you already guessed the word because that's in the title of the conference. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's the word risk. Surprise, surprise. So sometime in the middle or late 60s, we discovered risk. And what it means? So we're now looking for, mitigating risk, for reducing risk, fighting, any risky decisions, making sure that, we have, solid development without too much risk incorporated in our decision-making process. So I know that risk sounds bad, but we live at a time where while taking risk is risky, not taking risk is much riskier. And I think we learned this hard lesson from the pandemics. So for how many years, if not decades, pharmaceutical companies kept cutting R&D budgets for vaccines and antibiotics because A, it was risky. You could have, an accident with one patient out of 100 or even 1,000, and you could be sued by the army of lawyers. And of course, it was not profitable. So, the result, we know the result. So, but now I think what's happened over the last 12 months, is going to change the way the risk assessment now is treated in the business world. Because all of a sudden, all the floodgates were opened. The companies, didn't have to worry about one failure of 1,000. They were allowed to do things with 70-80% success. And all of a sudden we had phenomenal results. We had working vaccines in 10 months or so. So it's Moderna and Pfizer were ready in much less than a year, way before any most optimistic expectations. Because, we, as I said, we were ready to embrace risk. And risk is a key factor if we want to be successful, if we want to be innovative, if we want disruptive technologies. So it's this, again, it tells you that it's now trying to mitigate risk has its risky consequences. And I don't have yet more data, but I bet you that after 2020, we will see that the importance of word risk will be greatly diminished. So it's about our attitudes. I think it's many things that we are discussing now. They will result directly from our attitude, how ambitious we are, how much risk we're willing to take, because nobody can change the ratio of risk and reward. If we want to minimize the risk, we should, accept that the rewards will be lower. But we are hungry now, hungry for results. So that's why I'm very optimistic that the risky attitude, the positive attitude toward risk, is going to be reintroduced and will be a dominant factor in the next decade or so in business and in just in our life, because we know that the crisis is inevitable and sometimes it hits us without sending us a warning letter, as it happened with this pandemics. With the global world, we should expect bad surprises as much as the benefits from globalization. And now, just to end it on an optimistic note, let's look at the final slide, so that I prepared. So probably some of you or many of you recognize this is the scene from the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, 1980, and that's one of the critical moments when Han Solo desperately tried to escape from Imperial Guard, and he had no other choice but to move his spaceship into the asteroid field. And the C-3PO in his squeaky voice is telling, successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately, chances of surviving there, 3,720 to 1. So basically slim to none. The answer is never tell me the odds. Now, why this image from the Hollywood movie is so important for our conversation today? Because both were right. It sounds like a paradox. Machine knew the odds, but Han Solo, it was crazy. It's a Hollywood movie. How can we take it seriously? Yes, we should take it seriously, because no matter how bad the odds 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 to 1, only human can understand that this 1 actually had more significance. It's not just 1, it's the only chance, because what's the alternative for the machine? You turn back, you're being caught by Imperial Guard, you're being tortured by Darth Vader, and you will die probably in 10 hours. From machine's perspective, it's better than to be killed by an asteroid in 10 seconds. But the chances of surviving going back are, human knows it, is 0. So that's why only human can actually evaluate the importance of this 1 chance. So, and that's exactly so what is our role. So we know what matters. Machines do not know that. They know the patterns, they know the odds, but at the end of the day, it's for us to recognize what is really important. Machines can decide, but it's for us humans to choose. Thank you, and I'm ready now for questions.